Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of these little guys right here. This is a custom set of scales, as well as a custom pocket clip from RG Custom Metalworks. This is a local machinist here, actually in the San Diego area, who has been doing really amazing work, creating custom scales for some pocket knives. And so I wanted to check them out. But first off, before we go any further, I got to let you know these guys were sent to me by the maker. The maker reached out to me actually a long time ago. I did a little bit of stealth review consulting for him way back when, but I really like the products a lot. I have been carrying them on a Spyderco PM2 for a while now, and then when I heard he was making the Para 3, I ended up buying a Para 3 so I could get a set of the scales because I'm a really big fan of it. But nonetheless, he did send these scales along. He also engraved the gem on them, which is a really bold move. It's like calling your shot playing baseball, right? Like, you better hit it or you're gonna look like a jackass. Did he hit it? We'll find out later on. But nonetheless, we do have to assume this is the very best quality controlled set of scales and clip ever, and I'm doing my absolute best not to let that affect the nature or the quality of my review. If anything, that makes me more persnickety. Not that it's hard for me to get too much more persnickety. But anyways, see, Nick is right there in persnickety. Anyways, I digress. So, nonetheless, that's where this guy came from. Next thing, let's do some size comparison. And I'm going to be real with you. It's a little dumb to do size comparison for scales because you know what size a Para 3 is, because Spyderco Para 3, there's your size comparison. But we'll put it up right here next to a Spyderco Delica, as well as a an Ontario Rat number 2. What we're going to see here is it's about Para 3 size. Then actually, I will go ahead and I will compare it to this Spyderco PM2. Also, in this case, wearing a fancy set of pants from the exact same maker, right? And so both of these guys are, well, yeah, they're about the size of the knives they are. That's a really good size comparison, so enjoy that. But anyways, it's weird to do a review of scales, right? Because so many parts of the knife haven't changed at all. So instead, this is going to be a quick review. I'm going to talk about the things I really like about it, the stuff I don't like very much about it, and then we will go on ahead and take it from there. So on the good side, to start with, I really like these guys. The machining, the quality of these is very high. I have reviewed other sets of custom scales for pocket knives before, ranging from manufacturer-provided scales. This is the TRM Neutron, and TRM is very good at making manufacturer, they will make their own scales for people. But I've also looked at aftermarket things for like Titanium and from otherwise, and I gotta say, in terms of the overall polish and level of quality of the machining, RG Custom is at the top of the game. I'm yet to see another pair of scales that are quite as nice as this are. You can see that there's a very nice polish to it, right? It's not just a matte blasted titanium, right? That's a beautiful thing. And I gotta say, just even compared to the TRM scales here, this has a level of polish, a level of jeweling that is very nice. So I do very much appreciate that. The clip as well is very nice, and it fits well, and it also fits the aesthetic well, right? Having the radial mill on the knife as well as on the clip here, and the fact that the radial mill kind of matches, if we look there, it's not exactly one-to-one because, parallax and such, but it's still pretty damn close, right? And so overall, the machining quality on these is very nice. They are absolutely beautiful scales. Next thing I will say, I do very much appreciate the fact that this clip is, it's relatively shallow in the sense of, like, the Para 3 has a big problem in that the lanyard people won, right? And so with the stock spoon clip, for instance, as you see on the Spyderco Para 2 here, there is a lot of extra space before you even get to the clip, so you get a lot of pocket hanging out there. On this guy, you can see here that the screws are basically right as the clip gap goes as high as it possibly can. So this rides a little bit deeper in the pocket than you would get for a normal Para 3 without all of the strangenesses that you get when you do like the wrap-around deep carry clips here. This works very well, and it also does leave the lanyard hole accessible for the folks who feel the need to, tie their knife down or something like that. So that's a beautiful thing. Another thing I will say is that the fit on these has been very good. With the exception of the lanyard hole, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and which I don't actually attribute to being an RG issue here, these fit on the knife very nicely, and the knife runs as nicely, if not a little bit nicer, but that could just be the tune-up, right? I didn't take this particular Para 3 apart from the factory, put the regular scales back on. So, but either way, these don't in any way impinge on the action, and that has been the case with other of these that I've had, right? RG is very good at making these these fit the knife, and you can see that they actually fit the liners very well. If I zoom in a little bit here, you can see there's just really nice fitment around these liners here. It just kind of locks in well. Everything, all the liners are recessed in there, which is nice. These, on the whole, I gotta say, oh, that was a little much. On the whole there, just, they fit the knife. It's beautiful. And so I gotta say the fitment is very, very good. And you also see other little elements of the fitment here. Like, for instance, this little area where you see the blade itself. And remember, I bought this knife. This is a knife that I just got off the shelf from, I think, Knife Center. And it still, fits very, very nicely. That, should be the case if Spyderco's holding tolerances. But that's the thing. And then finally, on the good side, I gotta say you can see they've actually made some changes. RG has made changes to the contouring of the knife, adding an additional finger scallop here. Not only does this make the knife a little bit, frankly, smaller in the hand, which I do appreciate, and it gives you a little bit more grip. For me, these finger scallops actually fit my hand pretty exactly. I have relatively small hands, and so, that might not be the experience you have, but for me, actually, moving to this 3-finger grip thing is very nice, and it reduces weight a little bit. These do add a little bit of weight to the knife. Right, I'll throw it down on the table here, and I don't have the before number, but nonetheless, what you can see here is these come in at 4.3 ounces for, well, just about 3 inches a knife. So these are not lightweight. This knife becomes substantially heftier, but this little carve out here works ergonomically, and it works to reduce the weight a little bit. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. And then, of course, the gem carving there is very well done. I mean, to be clear, it's a little bit, like I said, it's a bold move, but he's done a very good job of it and carving it into the radial pattern in such a way that it still respects the contouring here. Because remember, this is a contour that is kind of curved, right? And so that was actually pretty well done too, aside from being a bold move. So anyways, to me, all of that is the good. The extra little bit of carving done here reduces weight and feels really nice in the hand. It fits the knife very, very well with absolutely no adjustment issues. This guy, once I got it apart and put back together, it was very, very nice in that way. And I gotta say, the clip works well, as does the matching there. And then overall, and what I would probably say is the great, were this a full review, is that finishing. This is beautifully finished and really makes the knife look beautiful. So to me, that's on the stuff I'm loving. On the bad side, the disassembly, oh my God. Now, to be clear, this is a Spyderco problem, not an RG problem, right? The lanyard tube was peened open such that, basically the ends of it flared out, and that wasn't good, right? That resulted in taking apart the original Para 3 being a not great process, right? You can see here where I kind of had to pull the G10, like the G10 has a burr up now here from trying to pull it out of there. This was not a pleasant install process. And had I not had access to a bench vise, I very easily could have, marred the finish here. So, unfortunately, you're kind of playing the lottery a little bit, right? If Spyderco happens to peen that tube, and I don't know how common that is these days. I haven't handled a bunch of Para 3s, and I certainly haven't disassembled a bunch of them, but it is not a great, situation. And one thing that would have made it a little bit easier is if RG included a lanyard tube or a lanyard tube filler. I don't feel like it's a good idea just to leave the lanyard tube out, because this actually is structural, right? This is one of the things that is keeping these two scales apart. And although it probably would be okay, I guess, with just this, I wouldn't do it, right? So it would be nice, though, if they had a nice straight-walled lanyard tube on there, because trying to get the peened-out one onto the titanium, hopefully it reshaped the lanyard tube a little bit, so it'd be easier to take apart. But as I put that on there, I kind of sealed the deal that these scales aren't going anywhere, and that's because of this tube. So to me, I dislike very much the fact that that was such a pain to take apart, and although I acknowledge it was on Spyderco, I think including a lanyard tube that is precision cut, and given that's a lathe part, so it's kind of a whole different world there, but nonetheless might have made this easier and would certainly make it easier to take apart and put back together to stock again. This is a set of scales that you kind of put on and you love it, but in this case, I'm not taking these scales off of this knife, right? I have no need to go back, and I have no desire to go back, but at the same time, Yeah, that's definitely a trouble. Next thing on the bad side here is, well, that installation, right? And this is a slightly different version of it, right? This isn't double jeopardy here. One thing that might actually be very nice for them to consider doing would be to have some pre-installed versions where you can just buy the knife with the scales pre-installed. I think that would be a very nice thing for folks who might not want to fight that battle and still want a knife that is this nice. I feel like it's a good service. And, sure, it cost even more. But at the same time, I definitely know people in my life who are very interested in getting a knife that looks like this, but may not be interested in paying the price. For me, that's kind of anathema. I would rather do that. But I think it would be a nice idea to offer, some number of these with pre-installed scales. I think that could be a beautiful thing. Then finally, on the bad side, I gotta say the price here. Oh, actually, one thing that isn't really bad, but I probably should mention, the clip is actually a little bit more polished than the handle of the knife itself. That's not an optical illusion. You can see here that the clip has a different level of polish. At some level, I don't mind having the visible thing be extra shiny, right? That's I am enough of a corvid, that's corvid like a raven or a crow, not like the Rona. Anyways, I digress. I'm enough of a corvid that to me, having that extra shiny out isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is a very different surface finish, and so you're going to want to keep that one in mind. But anyways, on the bad side, and the worst part about this is the cost, right? So right now, as this thing is configured, this is a $433 knife. So that includes a Para 3. This is the Spyderco regular Para 3, not the lightweight. This requires you to have the regular version of it. And that's $175. And then the clip on this guy, according to the website, is $68. And then the scale pair is, according to their website, $190. So that's $258 worth of scales plus a $175 knife, puts this at $430. Now, I'm going to be clear with you. I actually don't think that's that terrible, right? It's a lot of money, right? And for a lot of people, that's absolutely not something they would consider paying, but the quality, the felt quality of this knife is very, very high. And I would put it up there with other high-end titanium machine knives, right? The TRM Neutron here, which I am a big fan of, with the manufacturer titanium scales, doesn't feel that much, the quality level feels very similar. These scales are of nice enough fit and finish that they feel like these could be a $425 knife. And so I don't think it's a terrible, terrible thing, but it is a lot of money, right? And it really fundamentally transforms the Para 3 into something much higher end, much more bougie, right? That is a thing. One nice part about it, though, is that presumably a lot of the people who are doing this actually already own a knife, right? They've already bought a Para 3 in the steel that they like. They've already bought they know that they love this particular piece, and the Para 3 is a very good cutting knife. I wish the blade stock were a little thinner. I've got a full review of the Para 3 itself up. And, certainly my deepest dream is that these come around for the Delica with the thinner stock, slightly smaller size. Oh boy, RG, if you could make that happen. Well, let's put it this way. That's a way to earn the gem. But anyways, I digress. It's not like a demand or anything. Actually, it is. No, I'm going to make that a demand. Please do it for the good of the world. Anyways, I digress. But the Para 3 is a very good tool. It's a very nice knife. It's got a good lock. It's got a bunch of really nice things going for it. And so a lot of folks probably have a Para 3 and may already love it, right? Or they've got a Para 2, in which case they can get them for the Para 2. That's a thing too. Whereas, and so as a result, what they end up paying is $258 to really upgrade the heck out of their knife, to bring the knife to a whole different level. And so that itself is actually not quite as bad as, just $433 up front, or, but still, we got to admit, this is a lot of money for an S45VN Spyderco, effectively. This is a production knife, just with a very, very nice set of custom scales on there. And so, at that level, that's absolutely the worst part of this, right? This is a $433 knife, all things considered, and that's a lot of money to have tied up in what is basically a Spyderco. That said, I didn't really carry the Para 3. I have really carried this. And so, again, it's one of those things where it's like, for a lot of people, it's going to be ridiculous. But for folks who love this, these scales are a love letter to it. And so, anyway, I'm jumping the gun here. I'm going into the conclusion. So let's actually just go on ahead and go into the conclusion and talk first quickly about the bad stuff. The lanyard tube situation was not great, but that's also not on RG's fault. The finish here is slightly different. Again, not a huge deal. I would like to see them offer a pre-assembled, selection of these, maybe the pair of 3s and the pair of 2s, because I think that could open up a different target market, especially for people who don't want to dick with this situation here. And the price is very, very much up there and turns what is a relatively humble knife. The pair, well, okay, it's still $175. Ain't that humble, but nonetheless, it turns a knife that is very decidedly a tool into something that is very decidedly fancy, but at a very, very fancy price. Final conclusion on this guy. I really think these are pretty awesome, right? This is a great set of scales. And in the same way that I never really carried the pair of 2 before I got this set of scales that make it look like something amazing, I never really carried the pair of 3. But now, with this set of scales, which make them this beautiful, I really genuinely carry this knife. Like, this is a knife that really appeals to the fancy bastard in me, right? That is, to be clear, most of me these days, but nonetheless, this is a knife that is really, really nice. It is a beautiful object, 100%. And in many ways, it changes the essential character of it. It turns it from being a knife that is a perfectly fine working tool to something that is fancy, to something that is beautiful, right? And I really appreciate that. And I really like the fact that these are available aftermarket. And so, to me, these are, I think, worth the money, right? And if they do this for the Delica, I will be cash in hand, even at the same kind of price. Oh my God, yes. Because, well, I think I like that knife even more than I like the pair of 3, and this has really made me fall in love with the pair of 3. So, ultimately, that's kind of where I land. Assembly wasn't great, to be damn sure, right? But again, partly on Spyderco, the price is high, to be damn sure. But these change the essential nature of something you already own and turn it into something that you might appreciate more, or that the people around you might appreciate more if you are the person interested in what other people think about your knife collection, which, to be clear, is a very, very strange state of affairs. I say that in this. Anyways, I digress. But this is a very, very, very nice thing. And in fact, I would go so far to say that he has earned the gem. I kind of wish the gem were oriented this way, just throwing that out there. But nonetheless, I think this is earned. But that was also a bold move, right? This is a gem because it takes something that is a knife that people have maybe carried and loved for many years and escalate, that's not the term I want, elevates it. It's like escalated cuisine. It's like really angry enchiladas. I'm sorry, it's been a day. Anyways, and it elevates it to a level where this feels like a custom knife. This feels like a high-end piece, and it allows you to get a fully made in America knife that feels really beautifully machined, feels really high-end, and still has all the cutting power and efficiency and whatnot of the Spyderco designs, of the compression lock, of all of that. So ultimately, yes, this is a gem. As labeled such, it is expensive and it is a fancy pair of pants on a knife that itself isn't all that fancy. But if that's something that appeals to you, then I think these are absolutely going to work. Because RG Custom Metal works for you. Okay, anyways, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, that you are prepared to make a buying decision now, and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.